Hey guys, in this video we're going to be talking about what to do with situations and word problems and you have a remainder. What are you going to do with that remainder? So let's take a look at some examples. This is a supplement to the videos that you've been watching before the quizzes, so hopefully this helps a little bit. Here's our first problem. We have 76 fifth graders that are going to Valley Fair. Each bus can hold 43 kids. How many buses are needed? Before we do anything else, anytime you see a word problem, just take the numbers out right away and ask yourself, what's the problem really asking you to find? What's going on here? In this case, we have some kids that are going to go to Valley Fair, and it sounds like they got to take buses, and the buses can only hold so many kids. So we need to figure out how many buses we need to take so everyone can go. So knowing that and kind of having an idea in mind of what we're going to be finding, let's set up our division problem. We know that we have 76 fifth graders, and they're going to be split up because each bus can only hold 43 of them. Okay, so we need to figure out how many buses we're going to need. So using our division, our long division, I should say, I know that 43 is going to go into 76 just one time. 1 times 43 is 43. Do some subtraction, and I am left over with 33. So this remainder now, I have to figure out what am I going to do with this. And let's look at some things that I could do. One of the things is that I could just ignore it, meaning I'm going to ignore the 33 and I'm just going to take one bus. The other thing I could do is I could use the remainder as it is, meaning that we could take one bus and then 33rd, 43rds of a second bus. Or the other thing that I could do is I could use my remainder knowing that I'm going to need a little bit more and round it up to the next whole number. So instead of 1, I would have 2. Okay? Now let's talk through these situations here. I don't know about you, but I want all of the kids to go on this field trip. And if I only take one bus, 33 kids are going to be left out. And that's probably not going to be cool with those 33 kids. So in this case, ignoring the remainder is not going to work. Let's look at the next one. Could I use the remainder as it is? 33 43rds? Last time I checked, we can't divide buses up into parts. You either have 1 bus, 2 buses, 3 buses, or no buses. There are no partial buses. So using this is not going to work. Which leads me to this one, using my remainder to round up to the next whole number. Yeah, I for sure need 1 bus, but guess what? For those 33 other kids, I also need a second bus to make sure that everyone can go. So in these problems, you guys, it's not so much just about doing the division, it's about stopping and asking yourself, what in the world am I actually trying to find here? And if you allow yourself the time to think about it a little bit, you'll be able to get it. So, we've gone to Valley Fair. Now let's try the next one. By the way, that is the answer. We're going to need 2 buses, okay? Okay, next problem. Let's get some pizza going here. Henry shares 4 pizzas with himself and 2 friends. How much pizza will each person get? So once again, take out the numbers and just figure out what the problem's asking you to solve. Here there's some pizzas that are being shared between friends, and we got to figure out how much pizza each person's going to get. Knowing that, let's stick the numbers back in. We have 4 delicious pizzas. Pick a flavor. And this time, the one trick here is it's not just 2 people because Henry is sharing it with himself and 2 people. So that means 1 person plus 2 people. So 3 people. So we're dividing 4 pizzas by 3 people. Or if we set that up in long division, it looks something like this. 3 goes into 4 one time. Do some multiplication and subtraction, and we have a remainder of 1. So let's talk about what we're going to do with that remainder of 1 as we try to figure out how much pizza each person's going to get. Could we ignore our remainder of 1 meaning that we would just have our quotient of 1 or one whole pizza that each person would get. Maybe. Could we use our remainder as it is, meaning that we would write this as being each person would get 1 and then 1/3 of a pizza? Maybe. Or could we use our remainder of 1 to use that to round up to the nearest whole number? So we would go from 1 pizza to 2 pizzas. Well, let's talk about it. Last time I checked, there's only 4 pizzas. And if each person is going to get 2 pizzas, that means that there would have to be 6 pizzas, right? So in this case, we can't use the remainder to round up because there's not 6 pizzas. There's only 4. So 2 per person is too much. Let's look at the ignore part. If we ignored that remainder and each person just got 1 pizza, that would mean that there'd be some pizza left over yet. And I don't know about you, but when I eat pizza, I like to eat as much as I can. So I don't think ignoring it might be the best choice, which leaves us to using it as it is. Now, have you heard of dividing pizzas into fractions? Because I have. And is it possible to have 1/3 of a pizza? It is. If you think about in our last problem where we couldn't divide that bus up into pieces because you can't do that to everything, that didn't make sense in our last problem, but in this problem, it makes sense because we can actually divide pizza up. That's easy to do. So in this case, my friends, each person's going to get 1 and 1/3, and we are using that remainder as it is. Once again, we need to stop and think about what is this problem actually asking me to find, and does it make sense to do what we want to do with the remainder? Okay, next one. You have 60 baseball cards and you're going to give them to 7 friends. How many will each friend receive? First thing first, take out the number and just focus on what the problem's trying to ask you to find. In this case, you have some baseball cards. You want to give them away. You got to figure out how many cards each person's going to get. So you have 60 baseball cards, and you're giving them away, so it's a division, to 7 friends. We're dividing them up. So that looks a little bit like this, set up with long division. 7 does not go into 6, but 7 does go into 60, and it goes into 60 a total of 8 times evenly. 8 times 7 is 56. Some subtraction, and 4. Let's talk about what to do with that remainder of 4. The first thing we could do is ignore it, meaning that each person's just going to get 8 baseball cards. Next thing we could do is we could use our remainder as it is, meaning that each person would get 8 4/7 of a baseball card. Or we could use that remainder to round our 8 cards up to 9 cards. So let's talk about it. Well, here's another situation where if we're going to give each person 9 cards and there's 7 people, 9 times 7 is 63, and you only have 60 cards. So using that remainder of 4 to round up to from 8 to 9 is not going to make any sense. So we can't do that one. Now, could we use it as it is, 8 4/7? Well, just like with the bus situation, we can't divide a bus up, and we really can't divide baseball cards up too, because the last time I checked, it's important to have a whole baseball card. So it doesn't make sense to use it as it is, which leaves us to just ignoring it. What if we just ignored that remainder and we just gave each person the 8 baseball cards? That means that we'd have 4 baseball cards left over, because that's what the remainder says. We have 4 baseball cards left over, but that's okay because we want to give each friend the same amount, and we also don't want to have to cut up any baseball cards. So I hope these helped you a little bit. Once again, a couple of reminders. Take out the numbers at first to figure out what the problem's trying to ask you. Second, really think about what that remainder means. Do you need to ignore it? Do you need to use it? Do you need it to use it to round it up to the next whole number? Good luck.